Right, we have Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adamson, joining us in the studio tonight, still on the legal perspective to these developments in Rivers State. Good to have you on Newsnight tonight. Okay. It would be nice to get your perspective on this section 305, subsection 5, that the president relied on in declaring that state of emergency and removing the governor and the state assembly. And then secondly, is it a possibility that the president is relying on the doctrine of necessity? Is that where he may have derived his power from to remove the governor and the state assembly?
Thank you for having me. First of all, the power of the president as preserved under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution to declare a state of emergency is sacrosanct. All the parties have agreed that he has that power.
Right.
Now, having that power, the question now is whether that power includes the power to remove an elected governor and members of House of Assembly. Mm-hmm. My take is on this is clear. I see that power embedded in that state of emergency.
In what way exactly?
Good. Now, state of emergency clearly means an abnormal situation. So the normal thing will give way to abnormal thing. If you look at what the president has done, he has only suspended, not removed. The provisions as to removal in the Constitution are clear. These are the conditions for you to remove an elected governor. That is not the situation here. It's suspended. If you comb the entire provisions of the Constitution, about 320 provisions here, you will not see any provision where the Constitution gives power to the president to remove governor or any member of assembly, a state of assembly. But the power to declare state of emergency in certain situations is given to the president. And when you now begin to interpret what is meant by state of emergency, you will discover that is applying extreme measure to ensure there is no breakdown of law and public order.
If I get you correctly, I have to come in very quickly. Does it mean that Sim Fubara is still the governor of Rivers State?
He remains the governor. And mind you,
in spite of a state of emergency.
Mind you. Now, the power of the president under Section 305 is not absolute. It's subject to approval of 2/3 majority of a member of National Assembly.
Great.
Now, as it is well, if by tomorrow the National Assembly decide that we are now approving your proclamation, then that's the end of the matter.
Fantastic.
The status quo will return.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, because the problem seems to be different interpretations by members of the judiciary, your colleagues, lawyers. The president declared a state of emergency in Rivers State yesterday, and he did state that it took effect immediately, stating the date of the year. But you have just said the National Assembly, which is also in the Constitution, Section 305, which he hinges his powers on, have to decide on this official gazette. As we speak, 24 hours after, the National Assembly, both chambers, have not even seen the official gazette of this decision by Mr. President. So, can we say that a state of emergency is actually in place, since the president said in his national broadcast that it took effect immediately? That's one. On the second hand, you say in the about 320 sections of the Constitution, which I also checked, there is no provision for the president to remove, or anyone to remove an elected official, especially in the state of an emergency. If that is not there, does this Constitution now make provision for suspension? And that's been the controversy.
I'll start from the rear.
Yeah.
I have said that suspension is embedded in that declaration of state of emergency. The power that is given to the president under the state of emergency doctrine is extensive. And to that extent, it will invariably cover the power to suspend because of the peculiar situation in River State as of today. You know, to my mind, if you look at that section 305, subsection 3, paragraph C, D, and F, particularly, there are 3 conditions as far as I'm concerned, where there's actual breakdown of public order and safety, where there's a threat to that, and where there is a threat to the existence of Nigeria itself per se. You know, if you look at it critically, the problem is like cancer in River State. It will eventually affect the entire country if care is not taken. So at that stage, it builds on the president to take action, immediate action, which is what he has done. So to me, condemning that he has taken action is like you are asking Nigeria to be engulfed in fire.
Right.
The second question.
Yeah.
The second question, which is that the president said the state of emergency takes effect immediately, which was yesterday, 24 hours after the National Assembly has not deliberated on the matter.
Now, what the Constitution provides is that it will communicate the proclamation to the National Assembly immediately. Now, the 48 hours we are talking about here is upon the receipt by the National Assembly. Has it been received by the National Assembly? That's the question you ask yourself. If it has been received, then the calculation of that time will start from the day of receipt. If it's received today, they have 48 hours from today.
So the question is it in place? Because the president did say that starting today, 18th of March 2025, the state of emergency has been declared.
That is the proclamation by the president.
Okay, so
it's in place.
It's in place.
That's the proclamation.
It's subject to approval or rejection.
So what you're saying in essence is that right now, as we speak, there is no state of emergency.
There is.
It's saying
there is a state of emergency. He has declared but it's subject to approval.
Okay.
So if the National Assembly and said, "Oh, we are rejecting it,"
right?
That's the end of it.
Now, the Senate did not sit today on this particular issue. It was totally silent because it needed about 73 out of 109 senators. Is that even likely to happen tomorrow? Can the Senate achieve this 2/3 that you talk about for this debate to happen and for the ratification to take place?
That is left for them.
Right.
It's their constitutional duty to do. So how they do it, how they go about it, is that.
So within the 6 months, this interregnum, what exactly are the options before the state governor, whom you say is still governor, Sim Fubara, the state assembly, and all parties involved? Are there any chances that there will be some kind of peace and restoration of Sim Fubara?
It appears you are taking me to the political landscape in the River State. You see, I've said it somewhere else, that what we see at display is political arrogance by all the parties. By all the parties. To my mind, there are 2 major parties here. The House of Assembly of River State and the governor or the executive. Let me use it.
You're re-echoing what the Attorney General of the Federation said.
There are 2 major parties here. The other things we are saying, whether a battle between the godson and the godfather, is behind the scene. But what we are seeing is a battle between the legislature and the executive.
Okay.
So whatever you are inputting, you're your own. That's not the fact before. That matter came before the Supreme Court.
All right, for want of time, senior advocates, there are a lot of grounds to cover here. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice briefed the press today, and he said quite a lot. But I want you to react to some of them. Let's leave the politicization of the matter and talk about the legality. He has hinted that this action could be replicated in other states where democratic institutions are undermined. Does this set a dangerous precedent? How do you react to that? He has also said that the seized funds to River State, as declared by the Supreme Court, can now be assessed if the sole administrator requests for them. Any legal implications for that?
Well, I don't see, this is not the first time state of emergency will be declared in the state in Nigeria. This is not the first time. And this will not likely be the last time. So if it happens, if there is any breakdown of law and order as prescribed by the provision of the Constitution, there will be a repeat of what we have seen. There's no doubt about that. As per the funds of local government, if the federal government is of the opinion I'll say here, period, that, oh, because there is an administrator on ground, and who will legislate for that administrator? Right. Now, it's National Assembly. If you go back to section 11 of the 1999 Constitution, so it is the National Assembly. And if they feel that, oh, at this stage there is stability, and the money must go to them, so be it. However, the Supreme Court has declared that unless and until there's an appropriation bill, or there is democratically elected local government in place,
or when the right things are done.
The right things are done.
Right.
The money will not go to them. So if they feel the right thing has been done now,
through a sole administrator.
That's a business.
And it was a president. Yeah.
All right.
But land on that.
Now the issue is this: in all this, whether the president has a power to declare state of emergency in the circumstances we have seen in the River States, would depend on individual how you take it.
Okay.
If the affected parties feel that, no, I'm going to challenge it, they have a right to challenge the declaration.
Okay, so Fubara has
he can go to court.
In a yes or no response, the president has sworn in the sole administrator today. Was it in line to do that?
There must not be a vacuum in governance.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adamson, speaking on the developments in Rivers State, where sole administrator has now been sworn in to office for the next 6 months by President Bola Tinubu. Thank you.